sounds to me like you're tired of establishment politics and establishment economics. I don't know what to say because Giselle and Eliza said it all, but I'll try. Last night in Iowa, we took on the most powerful political organization in this country. Last night, we came back from a 50-point deficit in the polls. Last night, we began the political revolution, not just in Iowa, not just in New Hampshire, but all over this country. What is this campaign about? It's not about spin. It's not about 30-second TV ads. It is about the American people. It is about the woman I met in New Hampshire a number of months ago who said, Bernie, I am not just paying off my daughter's student debt, I'm paying off my student debt as well. It's about millions of people who are being drowned in debt because they chose to seek a higher education. It is about the United States of America being the only major country on earth that does not have paid family and medical leave. It is about the workers in Vermont and New Hampshire who today are working at 2 or 3 jobs, trying to cobble together some income because real wages for millions of workers have gone down over the last 30 years. Woo-hoo! Yeah. It is about a rigged economy when elderly folks and working families are struggling to keep their heads above water economically while almost all new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. It is about a nation today which has more income and wealth inequality than any major country on earth, and it is worse here today than at any time since 1928. It is about addressing the disgrace, I want you to listen to this, of the top 1/10 of 1% now owning almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. It is about the outrage of the 20 wealthiest people in America now owning more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. It is about the unacceptability of one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owning more wealth than the bottom and the Walton family, which kind of demonstrates what a rigged economy is about. Today, Walmart is the largest private sector employer in America. Yet many of their employees are forced to go on food stamps, Medicaid, and subsidized housing that you pay for through your taxes because the Walton family refuses to pay their workers a living wage. So when my Republican colleagues go around the country and they talk about welfare abuse, let's be clear. The major welfare abuser in America is the wealthiest family in America. pay your workers a living wage. When we talk about what's going on in this country, when we talk about why we have one of the lowest voting turnouts of any major country on earth, when we talk about why so many of our people have given up on American democracy, and they look at Washington and they say, I am hurting. I'm struggling to keep my head above water economically. My kid can't go to college. I can't afford child care. What are they doing in Washington? And I'll tell you what they're doing in Washington. They're out hustling for large campaign contributions from the wealthiest people in this country.
You tell it!
Now, as all of you know, 6 years ago, as a result of one of the most disastrous Supreme Court decisions in history, Citizens United case, what the Supreme Court said by a 5-4 decision, what they said to the wealthiest people in this country, to the billionaires, to corporate America, they said, you guys already own much of our economy. Now we're going to give you the opportunity to buy the United States government, and that is precisely what they are trying to do right now. Now, 8 years ago, as all of you remember, as a result of the greed, the recklessness, and the illegal behavior of Wall Street, the taxpayers of this country bailed them out because the banks were supposedly too big to fail. And as a result of the greed of Wall Street and their illegal behavior, all of you know, millions of people lost their homes, they lost their jobs, and they lost their life savings. That's the reality. Wall Street Journal 2 days ago, this is what they said. Wall Street is emerging as a particularly dominant funding source for Republicans and Democrats in the presidential election, early campaign finance reports filed with the FEC show. So far, super PACs have received more than 1/3 of their donations from financial services executives, according to data from the nonpartisan Center for Responsible Politics. Here is the story. The story is that Wall Street's greed brought this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. The story is that the business model of Wall Street is fraud. The story is that Wall Street has unlimited sums of money to spend in any way they want, including campaign contributions and speakers' fees. Let me tell you a story right now that really exemplifies everything that this campaign is about and why we need a political revolution. A couple of weeks ago, some of you may have noted, it got some attention, not a whole lot of media attention. Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is one of the large financial institutions on Wall Street, was one of those institutions that helped destroy the American economy. Goldman Sachs reached a settlement with the United States government for over $5 billion. And they reached that settlement because they were defrauding the American people and selling worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans. Okay, that's the agreement that they reached. Now, I want to tell you what goes on in government and why the American people want a political revolution. This one particular firm, over the last 25 years, has been a powerhouse in politics. Not just that they make enormous amounts of campaign contributions, they are part of the revolving door of Wall Street to Washington. That means that Wall Street executives go into government, do the service of Wall Street, and then go back to Wall Street. In the last 25 years, Goldman Sachs has provided a Democratic and Republican administration with secretaries of the Treasury and dozens of other high-ranking officials. 2 years ago, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, who himself is a billionaire, came to Washington and he said, you know what? You in Congress are going to have to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and give huge tax breaks to the wealthy and the large corporations. Now, here is the other side. When we talk about a rigged economy, this is a rigged economy. When you talk about a corrupt campaign finance system, this is a corrupt campaign finance system with Wall Street putting all kinds of money into Republican and Democratic candidates. And when you talk about a broken criminal justice system, here's where you are. And this is why the American people are so angry. Some kid gets picked up in New Hampshire today for possessing marijuana. That kid will have a police record that will stay with him for his entire life. But if you are a Wall Street banker whose illegal behavior destroyed the lives of millions of people, nobody will prosecute you.
That's right.
We're living at a time where not only are banks too big to fail, bankers are too big to jail. Together, we are going to change that.
Yeah.
Is a vision of justice, a vision of fairness. And that means whether you are rich and powerful or whether you are poor and desperate, under our system of law, all people should be treated equally, and that's what we have. And grotesque and immoral level of wealth inequality. It is also talking about income inequality. Now in Vermont and here in New Hampshire, I know we got so many people who are struggling hard economically. I have talked to seniors who are trying to get by on $12,000 a year Social Security. They can't do that. And at a time when mom is out working and dad is out working and the kids are out working, 58% of all new income generated today is going to the top 1%. So you guys ready for a radical idea? Together, we are going to create an economy that works for working families and not just the 1%. Tell you what it means. Is when you have millions of people trying to get by on $10, $9, $11 an hour, you and I know that nobody, certainly not a family, not even an individual, can make it on those low wages. And that means that we have to recognize that the federal minimum wage today is a starvation wage. We're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour for the next 4 years. It is not a radical idea to say that if somebody in America works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty.
You getting all this?
When we talk about equitable wages, I will hope that every man in this room will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity. Injustice of women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. There is no rational economic reason why that is taking place. It is nothing more than old-fashioned sexism and together. The economy, it's not just income and wealth inequality. That is a huge issue that from a moral and economic reason we have got to address. It is not only low wages in which millions of people are just struggling desperately and going nowhere in a hurry economically. It is also the simple fact that unemployment today in America is much, much higher than the official statistics tell you. Every month, there's a report, the number of unemployment reports that come out. One of them is the official report, says that unemployment in America is 5%. Anybody believe that? No. Smart group of people. Because buried away, there's another report. And that report includes not only people who don't have any jobs, but people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time or have given up looking for work. Then you add that together, real unemployment is 9.9%. Let me tell you something even worse that we never, ever talk about. And that is youth unemployment in this country. Youth unemployment. What we have today is if kids graduated high school between 17 and 20, if the kids are white, 33% are unemployed or underemployed. For Latinos, 36%. For African American kids, 51%.
Whoa.
So my view, and then tied to that reality, in my view, is another national tragedy. We have more people in jail than any other country on earth. It's the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We have more people in jail than do the people in China, 4 times our size. And if anybody here thinks that there is not a correlation between high youth unemployment, disproportionately Latino and African American, and more people in jail than any other country, I think you're missing the point. So are you ready for the second radical idea of the day? Investing in education and jobs for our kids, not just And when we talk about our economy, it goes without saying that in the United States, we should have the best educated workforce in the world. It's kind of a no-brainer. And the truth is, 30 or 40 years ago, we did. The other truth is, today, we do not. It is beyond my comprehension that today in New Hampshire, in Vermont, all over this country, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who have the desire, who have the ability, who have the qualifications to go to college, but are unable to do so for just one reason. Their families lack the funds. Now that is not only unfair to those young people, it is unfair to our economy because who knows what kind of scientists and engineers and teachers and business people are sitting there but are not getting the education. 150 years ago, very brave people, very intelligent people with a lot of foresight, they said, you know what, we got to fight for public education. That it's wrong for wealthy families to be able to send their kids to school while our kids are working in factories or on the farms. And they fought. And they said, we are going to establish public education in New Hampshire and Vermont, all over this country, for kids from the 1st grade through the 12th grade. That was an extraordinary achievement. The world has changed over the last 100 years. And today, in many respects, a college degree is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50, 60 years ago in terms of making it into the middle class and getting a decent job. It seems to me to be obvious that when we talk about public education today, what we have got to be talking about is making public colleges and universities tuition free. Yeah. It's less expensive to send a kid to the University of New Hampshire than lock them up. I prefer to send them to the that as a nation, we cannot ignore this painful reality of having more people in jail. And we will together end that national disgrace. How many people in this room are carrying student debt now? How much are you carrying? How much? Stand up.
Wow.
Say it out loud.
84,000?
183,000.
What the?
I feel like if Vermont walked in here, but anybody was even more. That's pretty good.
42.
How much?
42.
42,000. 80. I mean, all right. All right, you win. I don't know that that's a great victory that you're happy with, but let's take a deep breath. What this campaign is about, really, is urging the American people to think big, not small, not to take for granted what we see every day. You know, that's kind of human nature. We see people sleeping out on the street. Well, that's the way it is. We have a dysfunctional child care system where parents can't find quality, affordable child. Well, that's the way it is.
I'd love a package.
We have a young lady here, $183,000 in debt. Now, is that a result of going to Las Vegas and losing on the casino? That's because she wanted to get a decent education. Stop and think for a minute. What insanity is it that we are punishing people like this young woman and millions of others around this country because they wanted to do what every human being should do and get as much education as they should. So this is what we're going to do. What we're going to say is right now, people who are carrying a lot of debt also very often are paying very high interest rates on that debt. I spoke to a guy in Nevada a couple of months ago. I mean, you know, it's an unbelievable and sad story. Guy is 55 years of age. He's been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He's more in debt today than when he took it out. And he is literally worried that when he gets to Social Security, they're going to garnish his Social Security payment in order to pay his student debt, which is legal. Yeah. So what we're going to do, at least short term, is enable people who have high interest rates, or whatever the interest rates be, to refinance at the lowest possible interest rates they can find. What you got now is you have people paying 6, 8, 10% interest rates on student debt, yet you can refinance your home for 3 or 4%. People should have the right to get the lowest interest rates they can. Will save them very substantial sums of money in terms of student debt. Now, I'm often criticized, every day I'm criticized. Here's one of the major criticisms. Bernie, that sounds great. You're going to help this young lady over there. You're going to reduce the student debt. You're going to make sure that the young people in this country can go to college tuition-free. Hey, thank you, Santa Claus. That's great. How are you going to pay for all of these things? Well, I will tell you how we are going to pay for all of these things. We are going to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. Illegal behavior and greed nearly destroyed our economy. You were kind enough to bail them out.
Yeah, nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I don't know how many of you wanted to do it, but Congress against my vote bailed them out. All right. Now, it is Wall Street's time to help the middle class.
Yeah.
Here is the reality. This is an important point. When people tell you what we can afford to do and what we can't afford to do, I'm being criticized a whole lot for this. This is what everybody has got to understand, is that while my Republican friends and some Democrats shudder at the idea of wealth redistribution, you know, redistribution of wealth, Sanders wants to redistribute wealth.
Oh, God forbid.
I want you all to understand this. In the last 30 years, there has been a massive redistribution of wealth.
That's right.
The problem is, it's gone from the pockets of working families to the top 1/10 of 1%. In wealth. I don't see the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, or any of the establishment elite having very much concern about that redistribution of wealth. It is okay when it goes from the middle class to the top 1/10 of 1%. Well, I think maybe it's time that it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Nobody denies the fact that for us to survive economically, for us to do well economically, we need educated workers. For our democracy to thrive, we need an educated population. Yeah. So yes, Wall Street, you are going to have to pay more in taxes so our kids will get a good education. Yeah. This is a rigged economy. Today, you have enormously profitable corporations, in some cases making billions of dollars a year, paying zero in federal income tax. And that is because they stash their profits in the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, and other tax havens. We're losing about $100 billion a year in tax revenue. Now, in my view, when we have an infrastructure, our roads and our bridges, that are in many parts of this country in massive disrepair, our water systems, our wastewater plants, rail, airports, we need to rebuild our infrastructure. And when we do it through $1 trillion investment, we can create up to 13 million decent paying jobs. We're going to end this outrageous loophole and have multinational, profitable corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. When we talk about the issues facing not only the United States but the world, let me be very clear, as a member of both the Environmental Committee and the Senate Energy Committee, and that is climate change is real, it's caused by human activity, and it's already causing devastating problems all over this country and the world.
Yeah!
Scientists are telling us, and this is scary stuff. What they are telling us is if we do not get our act together, by the end of this century, this planet could be between 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. Now, you may think that's not a lot. That is an enormous increase in the Earth's temperature. And what that will mean is more floods, more droughts, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean. Right now, we are in the process of destroying our oceans with all of the unbelievable implications that means. Rising seas, they fight over limited natural resources. In my view, we have the moral responsibility for the sake of our kids and our grandchildren and future generations to work with China, Russia, India, countries all over this world in taking on the fossil fuel industry, transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainability.
Yeah! All right!
I mentioned before the power of Wall Street in getting what they want because of their enormous campaign contributions and because of the revolving door which places their people in government. Let me give you another example, equally significant. Today, we have many candidates on the Republican side running for president. It is rather amazing that given the fact that virtually the entire scientific community recognizes that climate change is man-made and already causing devastating problems, we do not have one Republican candidate for president acknowledging that reality. Rather we have that brilliant scientist, Donald Trump, who has analyzed this situation thoroughly, spoken to many, many scientists, and he has concluded that climate change is a hoax pushed by the Chinese.
Yeah.
Now that shocked me very much because I would have thought that Trump believed it was a hoax pushed by the Mexicans. Or the Muslims. Chinese. But it is laughable in one sense, but it is not laughable in another sense. When you have people ignoring science, I don't know how you make rational public policy.
You don't.
That's scary stuff. But here's the point where I want to connect the dots. I work with Republicans. I'm on a lot of committees with Republicans. We deal with Alzheimer's and cancer and all kinds of stuff. And they live in this world, they ask sensible questions, they have the same concerns. How does it happen that on this issue of climate change, none of them is prepared to deal with science? And the answer is pretty simple. The day that any Republican candidate told the American people that climate change was real and that it had to be dealt with, on that day, that candidate would lose his campaign funding. It's about allowing people on Wall Street to do illegal, dangerous things with impunity and to enable presidential candidates to become more science. And that is why, together, we are going to overturn Citizens United.
Yes. Yes.
Should move to public funding of elections. Now, in this campaign, I have been attacked for stating that I believe that all Americans are entitled to health care. So let me be very clear about it, so there is no misunderstanding. Yes. I believe that health care is a right of all people. It has ended this obscenity of pre-existing conditions. Recently, we look back and say, I can't believe it, that people went to get an insurance policy which promised to insure them for everything except what they needed insurance most for. It's like getting fire insurance, but they're not paying if you have a fire. Come on. What we have also done is added, as a result of the ACA, some 17+ million people to the ranks of the insured. We have also protected women against being discriminated against in terms of the cost of their health care premiums for the crime of being a woman. But, you ready for the buts? Every major country on earth, every one, our neighbors to the north in Canada, the UK, France, Germany, Scandinavia, Holland, you name the country, every major country has said that health care is a right for all people. Now, in our country, and this is important to know, today we have, despite the ACA, 29 million people without any health insurance. And we have even more people who are underinsured with large deductibles and large copayments. Anybody here in that status? So I talk to many people, $5,000 deductible, $10,000 deductible. That means you don't go to the doctor when you should if you are sick. And here's the sad truth. We lose thousands of people a year just for that reason. You go to the doctor when it's too late, the situation is terminal, they die, or they end up in the hospital with great pain and suffering. Furthermore, when we talk about healthcare, not often discussed by the media, but true, we spend per capita on healthcare almost 3 times what the British spend. They guarantee healthcare to all. 50% more than the French. Far more per capita than our Canadian neighbors, who guarantee in each case health care to all people. And then on top of all of that, or as part of that, we are being ripped off big time by the pharmaceutical industry. Just love the drug companies, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Just love them. What the drug companies can do right now, charge you any price you want. Any price they want. All right? That means you walk into the pharmacist tomorrow, the price of your medicine is doubled. Nothing you, anybody else can do about it. 1 out of 5 Americans today cannot afford to fill the prescriptions their doctors are writing. Elderly people are cutting their pills in half to try to make their medicine go longer. Now, some of you here in New Hampshire may remember, a number of years ago, I took a group of women from northern Vermont over the Canadian border. Anybody remember that? I was the first member of Congress to make the point about the price differential in Canada and in the United States with prescription drugs. I took women, working class women, who were struggling with breast cancer. Never forget this. I will never forget this as long as I live. Went to Montreal. Now these are women who are struggling for their lives. Walked into the pharmacy there. They bought the same medicine they were using in Vermont for 1/10 the price they were paying in the United States. This is more than an outrage. People are dying because they cannot get the medicine that they need. Meanwhile, last year, the 3 top drug companies made $45 billion in profit. In my view, healthcare is a right of all people, not a privilege. In my view, we should move to a Medicare for all, single payer. There are a lot of people out there who say we can't do these things. You know, Bernie Sanders is thinking too big. Healthcare for all, free tuition at public colleges and universities, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, creating a world-class child care system, leading the world in terms of climate change, ending the absurdity of having more people in jail, dealing effectively with income and wealth inequality, ending institutional racism and a broken
Sounds like a good economy.
addressing the fact that 11 million undocumented people in this country deserve a path towards citizenship. Who want to deny a woman the right to control her own body? Those who say that our gay brothers and sisters should not too ambitious. Don't you understand that Wall Street rules? Don't you understand that the fossil fuel industry and the Koch brothers dominate the political process? I do understand that. And I believe, and the American people understand that. I want to tell you something about campaign finance. As many of you know, I am perhaps the most progressive member of the United States Senate. I go around this country and I talk about my outrage that billionaires are now buying elections. impact over our political process. It is not just progressives and Democrats who share those views. You got a lot of moderates, you got a lot of Republicans who say, yeah, we disagree on the issues. But no sensible American believes that the Koch brothers and a few of their billionaire friends should be able to spend $900 million in this election cycle.
Yeah, right.
Nobody believes that we should accept a reality that the Koch brothers and their friends will spend more money on this campaign than either the Democratic or Republican Party. That, my friends, is not democracy. That is oligarchy, and the American people know that. What this campaign is about is a very simple principle. It's called political revolution. What does that mean? What it means is that if we continue along the path of what happened in November 2014, our last national election, where 63% of the American people didn't vote, where 80% of young people didn't vote, we continue along that path. The Koch brothers, Wall Street, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, they are as happy as can be.
Say it.
Because if we don't get involved in the political process, they will continue to dominate the political process. None of the ideas that I am talking about are radical pie-in-the-sky ideas. These are the ideas the American people believe in.
Yes.
If you want radical ideas, go to the Republicans. They want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and give huge tax breaks to billionaires. That's a radical idea. Raising the minimum wage, pay equity, creating millions of jobs, health care for all, paid family and medical leave. Those aren't radical ideas. That's mainstream American ideas.
Yes.
Where we are is an understanding that nothing significant will change. No president, I'm the only candidate who will tell you this. No candidate for president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do this alone. Can't do it alone. Because these guys on Wall Street and the fossil fuel industry and the Koch brothers have so much money and so much power that no president, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how much he wants to make the change, will be able to do it. What do we do then? What we do is wage a political revolution. What does that mean? It means that tens of millions of people, including many who have given up on the political process, many who say, I'm not going to vote, it's dumb, these guys won't do anything for me. Young people who have not yet begun to become involved in the political process. Working people who are working so hard they don't even have the time to get involved in the political process. What the political revolution is that we have got to do a lot of hard work. And that is, we have got to go out to our friends, our co-workers, our neighbors, our family. And we have got to say that the future of this country is at stake. And in fact, the future of the world when we deal with climate change. That democracy, for which, by the way, many people fought and died to preserve, democracy is not a spectator sport. We are all deeply grieving the New England Patriots' loss. Football is a spectator sport. Democracy is not a spectator sport. The way we transform America is to understand that every person in this room is enormously powerful. You are enormously powerful. Yes, Wall Street, fossil fuel industry have all the money. And yes, the corporate media is the corporate media. But you know what we have? We have the people. And when people stand together, when we do not let the Donald Trumps and the others divide us up by whether we were born in America, born in Mexico, whether we are gay or straight or male or female, you know, whether we're black or white or Latino or Asian American, when we come together in force, and we say to Washington, you know what? We demand a government that represents all of us and not just a handful of billionaires. On that day, we transform America. Next Tuesday, New Hampshire will hold the first primary in the country.
Yep.
And you will have the opportunity to help lead this country in a very, very different direction. Please come out and vote. Please bring your friends and everybody you know. If we win here in New Hampshire, after our great showing in Iowa, we're going to do well in Nevada and South Carolina. But more importantly, we're going to transform our great country. Thank you.